Hi, Vince. How are you?
Hey, good, Jerry. How are you?
Good, good.
Right on.
Right. I don't. Is Vince Chinanat here yet? I don't see him. I believe he was going to lead us in our opening prayer. Anyway, it's not quite 7. Obviously, we'll give folks a few more minutes here before we get started. And yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're short of quorum as well. So let's give it a few minutes. Hopefully, people are dialing in shortly. Nancy, if Vince doesn't make it, do you have a prayer for us?
I can do prayer, no problem.
Thanks, Nancy.
Hey, Jerry.
Hello, is that Marvin?
Yeah, I was just.
Hey, how are you?
The silence is killing, so why don't you entertain?
Sing a song, tell a joke. Yeah, I'll stick to my day job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, let's see here.
Andrea, did we have any regrets for tonight's meeting?
Oh, I received one actually, Laura.
Okay.
All right, but Kevin has just joined in, so we now have. Let me just double check the count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parent members. So we actually now do have quorum because we're down to 9 on our committee. So we can get underway. And so, and again, I don't see Vince C on the call yet. So Nancy, if you would be so kind as to open us with a prayer.
Thanks, Jerry. I will share a prayer with you this evening. In our prayers tonight, I'd like us to keep in our prayers for peace in the Ukraine and for the Ukrainian and Russian lives that have been lost during this time of war, for continuous healing for our Indigenous brothers and sisters who received Pope Francis' formal apology for the actions of the Catholic Church to children and families who are part of the residential school system here in Canada. For continuous healing for the COVID-19 pandemic and for the impact it has had to create uncertainty to our students, our staff, and our families here at HCDSB. Please join me in the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. I offer this blessing prayer. May the God of strength be with us, holding us in strong and loving hands. May we be the sacrament of God's strength to those whose hands we hold. May the blessing of strength be with us. May the God of gentleness be with us, caressing us with sunlight and rain and wind. May God's tenderness shine through us to warm all who hurt and are lonely. May the God of wonder be with us, delighting us with sunrise and sunset, enchanting our senses, filling our hearts, giving us wide open eyes, that they may see splendor in both the humble and majestic. May we open the eyes and hands and hearts of the blind and deaf and the insensitive. May the blessings of wonder be with us. May the God of compassion be with us, holding us close when we are weary and hurt and alone. May we be the warm hands and eyes of compassion for our brothers and sisters when they reach out to us. May the blessing of compassion be on us. May the God simplicity be with us, opening us to a clear vision on what is real and true, leading us deeply into the mystery of childhood. And may our dealings with others be marked with honesty, which is simplicity. And may the blessing of simplicity be on us. May the God of joy be with us, thrilling us with God's nearness, filling our hearts to fullness, and filling our throats with laughter and song. May our joy bring joy to others. May the blessings of joy be with us always, and may the God of love be with us. May our lives be continually giving and receiving of love with our God, our friends, and with those who we touch. May God's love in us light fires of faith and hope, and may the fire grow and burn deeply and inflame the earth. May the blessings of love and friendship always be with us. St. Clare of Assisi, pray for us. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right, thank you very much, Nancy. And yes, thanks, Andrea.
Hampton, như chúng ta biết ngày nay,
मुतअद्दिद औलीन इकवाम और मतीस की तारीख और जदीद रवायात से मालामाल है.
Lana beanishi nabi tulata wandera.
रहना sana elemental.
ये ज़मीन जो पानी के आसपास है.
ay napuno ng kasaysayan ng katutubo.
当我们今天聚集在这些条约土地上时，
Nossos ensinamentos sociais católicos nos chamam em solidariedade aos nossos irmãos e irmãs indígenas.
Honrar y respetar las 4 direcciones. Art, النباتات, المياه, الحيوانات.
At mga ninuno na nauna sa amin.
存在着这些所有奇妙的创造要素。
Ito ay regalo sa atin ng ating Panginoon Diyos na lumikha.
हम क्रेडिट फर्स्ट नेशन के मिसिसागा को तस्लीम करते हैं और उनका शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं।
इस रिवायती खेतर दे मुख्तियार होने ਲਈ
Great, thanks, Andrea. And we'll move right into our agenda. Andrea, if you could bring that up again, please, that would be great. All right, terrific. So first item, of course, approval of the agenda. And if I could ask someone to, if acceptable, move to accept. Jen, thank you. And do we have a seconder for the agenda? Anyone to second to approve the agenda? Thank you, Kevin. Okay. Now the minutes. Now, Andrea, we're really, I apologize. I know I should know this, but were all these sets of minutes distributed to everyone?
Yes, Jerry, they're actually attached to the agenda.
Oh, they are. Thank you. Okay.
At the very back, yeah.
I didn't scroll down that far. Thank you. All right. I think they were sent out before, but okay, very good. So 3 sets of minutes then. Does anyone have anything from any of those sets of minutes, additions, changes? And that was inclusive of the special meeting we held as well. Okay. Okay. If no changes, then if someone could move to approve the minutes from those meetings. Thank you, Jen. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, very well. So moved and approved. All right, very good. Moving right on to our board updates. Nancy.
Thanks, Jerry. Just to start, I want to thank CPIC and the committee who organized for our guest speaker for our parent series. So we had the first one last week with Sarah Westbrook. The presentation was attended by 208 parents, which was wonderful. It was a very engaging event. The parents loved it, and we do have feedback out to the community, which we will bring back to CPIC. Jerry did a wonderful job sort of chairing that meeting and guiding all the interaction that Sarah provided to the parents. So thank you, Jerry and Jen, for being present at the meeting, and we look forward to the next 2 sessions that Sarah will be doing for our parents. Just to update you with regards to the election for the 6 CPIC positions for September 2022, the nominees, we have a good turnout of nominees. There's 13 for the 2 Burlington positions, 10 for the Oakville, and 9 for the North Halton positions. Those nominations will go out to Catholic School Councils by April 14th, so next Thursday, due back to my office by May 13th. The communication to the councils is that they are to their vote is to go to the principal. It's the principal who will tabulate and share the results through my office. Okay, and the plan is that we will announce who the new members of CPIC are for September 2022 at the May Council Chairs meeting, and invite the new members to our June CPIC meeting. And other updates from the board. As you're aware, we have returned to many of our regular routines in both our elementary and secondary school settings, with many of the restrictions that were in place for COVID being lifted now at our schools. It's wonderful to see the playgrounds full at recess and entry with all the students interacting. At the high schools with the many extracurriculars, seeing students and families, seeing the students engaged in many activities. So it's really nice to see, and you're hearing a lot of positive, that everybody is happy for students and all the things that they are engaged in at the school. We are continuing to report to parents. So when there's a positive case in a classroom, there is notification that goes to parents, and schools are continuing to report to the Ministry of Education the number of students and staff absent daily. And we are continuing to do this until the Ministry of Education directs us not to. Okay. We have received through the Ministry of Education HEPA filters for all our classroom settings, both in elementary and secondary, and they will be delivered and installed in all of our learning spaces. They have already started to be installed, and hopefully in the next few weeks they will be all in place. In both the elementary and secondary panel, we are at the point of the year where we're beginning to look at our staff allocations for September 2022. In both panels, but at the secondary and elementary level, our enrollment is down, and we're hoping that as things start to lift and we're returning to our normal way of life as we knew it before COVID, that our registrations will continue to go up. We have an open online registration process that's in place now, and anyone can register who is a resident of Halton. Any student who's a resident of Halton can register, and we're really hoping that we can get those registration numbers back up to what they were pre-COVID. Okay, and parents do have an opportunity to register for St. Clair of Assisi as well through that online registration tool. As mentioned, it's wonderful to see all those extracurricular activities. I had an opportunity to attend some of the winter sports at the secondary level championship events this week, and the crowd was wonderful to see. We are looking forward to what our spring program for athletics, which will include at secondary soccer, track and field, rugby, lacrosse, and baseball. And at the elementary level, it will be basketball, track and field, and soccer. I know many parents had asked about cross country. Because of the shortened season and the number of sports we're trying to condense in a shortened season, we will not do cross country this spring, but we hope to resume it in the fall. Arts programs are also up and running. It's wonderful to see that many of the schools are preparing a drama or a musical event to share with the community, and all the other programs and clubs that are available to students are up and running. Our provincial assessments will take place this spring. So for our secondary students, the OSSLT will take place at the end of April, beginning of May in our high schools. It is going to be administered to the grade 11 students who didn't have an opportunity to write it last year, and our grade 10 students, and all assessments will be done electronically. Okay, and you'll receive communication through your school on the date when that is happening. For grade 3 and 6, the EQAO assessment will take place this year throughout May and June. And again, the schools will communicate with parents what the date is that the students will be writing at the school. This is also an electronic format that the students will do it in, and students will have an opportunity to do practice assessments and different activities with their teachers in preparation for this. Our secondary schools have resumed parent-teacher interviews in person and virtually. Some were this week and some will be next week. Our elementary change in learning environment survey closed on Friday, and students who are changing their learning environment back to face-to-face will move on April 19th. We have 317 students returning to face-to-face learning and 24 students going to St. Clair MCC, and that changes till the end of the year. Parents will receive one more survey for this year, which was to confirm where the learning environment they want their students in for September, and that will go out at the end of May and beginning of June. Both in our elementary and secondary programs for the summer are beginning to be advertised. So our secondary summer school program will be a virtual program. So whatever the offerings are will be virtual. Our elementary programs and special education programs will be a combination of in-person and virtual offerings for families. And we do have quite a robust tutoring program that's going to be communicated out to families of opportunities for children to receive some additional tutoring that they may want to sign up for through the spring, summer, and into the fall. Our new kindergarten parent information sessions will be taking place in all our school communities at the end of April, beginning of May, and parents will get that communication from their school. We have resumed all day trip programs and some curricular overnight programs at the secondary level. This is for our outdoor education program, so it's part of the course that the students are taking and from some of our CHISM requirements, but we're not offering right now the opportunity for students to participate in an overnight trip as we traditionally would for the end of a grade 8 year. That's where we're at right now. There does need to be some time before we're planning a trip like that. And we also need to take into consideration where we're at with the number of cases with COVID, about staff's availability to attend an overnight trip. So we're still working through that, but we have heard that many of the schools have planned day trip events. There are service providers that have planned wonderful things for our grade 8s. And so we're looking for that feedback from the schools on how they're doing with their planning. All the schools are planning their graduation events, and they will be in-person events. And so that they will be communicating. If you have not been part of that communication, anticipate you'll get that information from the school. Many of our communities have their program events. If they haven't taken place, they will be taking place in the spring, and Catholic school councils are looking forward to welcoming the parents for those various events that they plan. I think most of them that they've planned will be virtual for this year, but there may be an opportunity to do something in person as we go later into the spring if everything continues to go well. All of our schools have continued to work with their local parishes on bridging the Homeschool Parish Partnership. Many of our schools have had their confirmation and preparing for First Communion. There has been wonderful community outreach through the season of Lent, and schools are all preparing Holy Week liturgies for next week and looking forward to resuming school masses for the Easter season. So we're excited for the schools and the parishes to be able to do that again. Monday, April 25th is the PA Day. The focus for our staff development is on equity and diversity, and our schools are developing their plan for that day. Schools have also been engaged in staff development supporting our 2S LGBTQ+ students and community through PD from our board level committee at their staff meetings in preparation for June. And that's my update for this month. Any questions? Go ahead, Jen.
Nancy, I was just wondering, next year is the format for the high school, for people who choose to do online learning, will there be a separate high school like there is for St. Clair for elementary, or will they just be doing courses through their own school that are offered online?
We're right at that point where we're going to do a survey to the secondary parents to have an understanding of what's the need, like how many spaces we're going to and how many parents are requesting that for their students, or if the student is requesting it. That will determine if we will set it up the way we've done St. Clair, or if it will be through the school. But there will be an offering for virtual learning at the secondary, and it will not be hybrid.
Okay. My second question, more a comment, because we had a school council meeting a couple days ago. And I understand where you guys are with respect to the overnight trips, but I did want to pass along that the camps have told the elementary schools that they need to make a decision in the next 2 weeks or so, or they will lose their spots. So I'm just in case you guys hadn't heard that already.
No, I haven't heard that already. I do know that some of the schools have just opted to look at something different because we haven't given the go ahead. But if things change, then we'll be able to know that. And thanks for bringing that to my attention, so we can bring it back to the senior table for discussion.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen.
Nancy, just following on Jen's question about that, or the point about potential grade 8 trips, do you have a timeline for when that decision will be made?
I don't have an exact timeline, because I think we're still trying to understand right now. Jerry, I'll be honest with you, the number of COVID cases in our schools and by staff and students is quite high right now. So I think we haven't landed on that, but maybe Director Daly can have for some in terms of a time frame of that, if we are even going to go forward.
Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Jerry. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, Jerry, certainly considering some of the time constraints around schools and planning, we'll have direction within the next week.
Okay, that's great. And can I also ask, I mean, so overnight trips are being permitted at the high school level as part of curriculum. If I may, why the exclusion for the grade 8s?
Well, I guess I would argue that a grade 8 graduation trip is not a curriculum related trip. We at 2 of our high schools, their outdoor education trips, part of the curriculum is the actual outdoor education experience. Most of our other high schools major programs are day trips. I don't think any of them would necessitate an overnight trip. So that's really how we're differentiating between the 2 panels. And on that note as well, Jerry, while we're looking at the overnight trips for our secondary outdoor ed programs, we haven't actually, we're still in that planning phase, because there's a number, obviously because of COVID, a number of considerations, but because they are some distance, we'll have to modify how we would traditionally offer those trips. So our curriculum department in particular, our phys ed consultant, and the 2 schools are working on that now.
Right. Okay. I mean, if I may offer just kind of some grade 8 parent input, I think those would argue or suggest that while not strictly part of curriculum per se, the overnight experience for grade 8s, I mean, granted, long-standing tradition, and people, they've come to expect it. That's one thing, but just that experience for that cohort is difficult to replicate. And there is, of course, I mean, there does tend to be some educational elements to it, depending where the overnight trip is happening, as well as there's always a faith component as well. So I'd suggest, I mean, if it's deemed that it's safe enough for our secondary school students to attend an overnight trip, that I believe would be equally safe from a health and safety standpoint for grade 8s, which they're all 13 or older, to do likewise. So I would just offer that as some additional input.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay. Okay. Any additional questions for Nancy? Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Nancy,
everyone.
for the thorough report. You covered a lot there, actually. So thank you. Surprised there isn't more questions, but hey, must have been good. All right. Okay. Marvin, trustee update, if you would, please.
Hi, Jerry. I think all those questions are reserved for me. So good evening, everybody. It's good to be back. It's been some time since we had the last CPIC meeting on February 7th. Since then, trustees have had 4 board meetings. At the February 15th board meeting, the Director of Education presented his annual report to the board. We have been doing very well. The 2022-23 school calendar year was presented at the same meeting and was approved. At the same meeting, following relevant policies to CPIC were approved. Policy II-39, Progressive Discipline and Safety in School. Policy V-04, School Fundraising Activities. So those are the policies that were presented and passed. At the same meeting, there was an action item for a feasibility study to be conducted to establish an additional IB school at HCDSB, and a feasibility study to be conducted to determine the potential need to offer AP programming at additional HCDSB schools. That motion passed. At the same meeting, a report on secondary school assessment was presented. At the March 1st board meeting, the appointment of new student trustees for 2022-23 was announced. 1 student trustee is returning back and 2 new trustees. Trustees were updated on the process for conducting the feasibility studies for the possible expansion of the AP program to additional secondary schools. So AP program setting up is much more easier than the IB program. There's lots of formalities involved there. At the March 22nd board meeting, there was a staff presentation on STEAM at HCDSB. The rollout of STEAM initiatives from elementary to secondary panel in the form of curricular and extracurricular activities was presented. We are doing very well with this implementation, and every student in HCDSB now has the opportunity to participate and get creative. By the way, this is STEAM week, and we are doing extremely well. The action item on trustee distribution and determination for the 2022 elections saw the board return back to ward-based trustee representation for the next election in 2022. Following by the policies that were reviewed and approved, volunteers in Catholic schools, that's policy II-37 and policy V-01, use of school grounds and community use of school facilities. The following relevant action items to CPIC were discussed, voted on, and passed. There was a motion which directed the director to seek input and provide active support to implement Black student unions at secondary school where requested to be led by Black staff or parents. There was also a motion on climate energy declaration just put forth by our student body to have HCDSB pledge to be proactive in its decision making in all areas of operations, and this motion passed. There was also a report from the past motion on the secondary school assessment on the plan to continue to develop exam writing and study skills for senior secondary students, and that was part of the board package. At the April 5th board meeting, that was yesterday, the first action item was a motion to share the report prepared by parents of Black children on anti-Black racism in Ontario with all staff and trustees, and that passed. The second action item was to add 3 additional positions to be created in the Human Rights and Equity Department to be in place for the next school year. These positions would be to attend to investigations or complaints or concerns brought forth from staff, parent, or students. And that, Mr. Chair, is my condensed report on those 4 board meetings that he had over a period of 2 months. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, seems not. Marvin, thank you again for your thorough report from the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving along. I do not see Denise on the call tonight. Usually she RSVPs if she can't attend. I did not hear from her. So that's Andrea or Nancy. Did you happen to did she send regrets?
I have not heard from her, Jerry. No.
No. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll defer the OPSI update in our absence. Okay. So our CPIC subcommittees then. I know Laura did send her regrets for tonight. So Tiana, if you would be so kind, give us an update on the school council support committee.
Thank you, Jerry. I will say that we did not end up having a subcommittee meeting since our last CPIC meeting. It has been, a little bit hectic in other areas. But I can say that Laura did provide me with feedback on the social media. She says she has developed a social media plan and we'll be sharing it hopefully at the next meeting. We'll discuss it in our subcommittee meeting that we will have before the next CPIC meeting. And with regards to the handbook, I have been doing some work on the handbook, stripping it from a manual to an actual easy to use handbook. I have not gotten as far as I wanted to on it yet. And once we do have it stripped down, I'll be sending it off to someone else to try and lighten the literature in it, because it is a bit of a heavy read right now. So we're still working in progress on that. And that's our two big projects right now. I think that's about it.
Okay, thanks, Tiana. Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Hi, Tiana. I was just wondering if you had any timeline for that handbook. I appreciate it's a really big job. I'm just wondering, is this something that you think will be completed this school year, or will this be going into next school year, do you think?
I wanted it to be completed this school year. I think that's our goal, is to have it completed this school year. Actually, I was hoping to have been able to get through a bit more of it. It's just been the past few months have not been friendly with time in certain areas. But yeah, so we will, let's say the goal is, we have another, 2 meetings of CPIC, 2 or 3?
2 more, I think May and June.
May and June. Okay, so let's say that hopefully by the May meeting, we'll have in your hands a draft of the actual handbook that you can, that you could review and give some feedback on or whatever, because you saw what the manual looked like. It was massive.
Yeah. And it was a lot of repetition.
Yeah. So what I've been doing is going through cutting it all out. But as I cut it out and I'm looking at what's left, like removing the repetition and look what's left, it's kind of a harsh read. So we're going to have someone, because I'm not good with softening it. We're going to have someone go through and soften it up a bit. That's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Tiana.
Thanks.
Yeah, Tiana, I mean, feel free if you've got a work in progress and you want some additional, kind of thought or ideas as to where to take it next, or just want some others to contribute ideas. I'm happy to have a look.
Great.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that kind of editing type work and trying to contribute some thoughts. For these social media plan, excuse me, I guess, so same question there. So Laura's got that in hand, it sounds like. Do you know, at what point will it be ready to share, even just in draft form, again, for just to get additional eyes on it, and ideally prior to the next meeting, so that people have a chance to digest it, and if they have any feedback or questions or comments, they can come prepared?
Okay, so Laura did send me the email saying that she has the social plan ready, and she was going to share it with us. Unfortunately, we just didn't get it in email form yet. So what I'll do is I'll send her an email today, like tonight after the meeting, and ask her to share it with yourself and Jen, as well as our subcommittee, to see, so that way we have it all in a draft form.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And then what I suggest, if we're going to table it at the next meeting, that, I mean, after, because we've had a look at it, let's distribute it widely then if we think it's at a point where it can be shared. That again, so that way people have some time prior to the next meeting.
Not a problem. So I'll do that. Yeah, thanks, Jerry. I'll send her a quick email tonight because she was supposed to send it to me before the meeting started. But again, she's in a work function right now, so she probably just didn't get the opportunity.
Sure. No worries. Okay, and on that, that was being developed with someone from the board, admin staff, right? The communications department, if I'm not mistaken.
My understanding is yes, that she is working on it in conjunction with other individuals. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, so obviously for feasibility in terms of rollout and whatnot, we would need their eyes on it. Okay. All right, terrific. Good. No, thanks for the terrific work on that. I know it's not a small task, especially to take a legacy piece and basically rebuild it. So I mean, it was a similar exercise with the bylaws. So I know what you're going through.
Thank you.
So thank you, much appreciated. But once done and distributed, both pieces will be very useful and helpful.
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions for Tiana about the work of the School Council Support Committee? No. Okay. All right. Great. Alex, Parent and Community Engagement Committee.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys? Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Hello. Oh yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we haven't met again in our Parent Community Engagement Committee. So I hope we can have one more meeting before our meeting in May. So we'll keep you posted with any more updates. So far, just the parent series has taken place, and I don't know if you already sent this, Andrea, but if you can send us the feedback that we have from the parents for that first session, that would be very useful once we meet, and then we can define what is the plan we're going to have with the other items, such as the survey or the awards, how we're going to move forward.
Okay. Go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, it's just I'm being forgetful. When is the next event? The next Sarah Westbrook? Is it sometime in May?
I think it's May 6th, Jen. May 6th at 6:30.
Okay, thanks.
And
yeah, I'm just going to confirm. I think Violeta will be available for that event. I just want to confirm.
I think it's May 4th, actually, Wednesday, May 4th.
Yeah, it's definitely not a Friday, which is May 6th. Yeah, so I think May 4th definitely rings a bell. And yeah, and I have to echo what Nancy said earlier, that the first session with Sarah was terrific. Her delivery was very dynamic and engaging, and over 200 parents logged in for it, and they remained on for the whole time. You know, sometimes you get people drop off, they lose interest, whatever. Nobody did. They stuck with for the whole time and ran over a little bit over time. In fact, so really well received. I imagine the next one will be equally well attended. So Andrea, back to Alex's question about the feedback. Is there anything yet available to share on that?
Right now?
I don't mean this. I don't mean
no,
this.
not today for sure. No, for the next meeting that we have in our committee, if you can send it to us, that would be awesome.
I will absolutely do that for sure.
It will be probably in 1 or 2 weeks. We'll just get everyone together, see which schedule works for everyone. And thank you so much for covering on that day, Gary and Jen, and all of you that participated. It's very sad that Sarah doesn't let us keep those recordings, but I'm glad that it works, and hopefully the word of mouth is going to spread, and we'll have more parents for the next time.
Yeah. And to that point, actually, Alex, if some of that, depending how the feedback was collected, I can't remember what the feedback form looked like. If there was some kind of free form text in there. If there's some quotes we could lift from the feedback, because no doubt there'll be some great reviews. And when we promote the second session in the coming weeks, perhaps we can include some of that feedback, of course, anonymous, strip out any names, of course, but just to give people some insight as to what other parents took from it. Maybe we can do something like that, Andrea.
Yeah, all the feedback came back anonymously.
Okay.
And the office, Sarah's office, sent me some quotes from our parents that emailed her about right after the presentation as well. So it was very positive.
Yeah, terrific. So if we can incorporate that in the upcoming promotion of the next one, that'd be great.
Yep.
So good to hear. Okay. Nancy.
I just wanted to mention something to you guys. I was checking on the CPIC page at the website of the board. It looks really amazing. I like the way that you're having it. I don't know if it's worthy, like if we can put a space there where we can put all the feedback of the parents, maybe, I don't know, parents feedback or something like that, just so if parents go to CPIC, to that CPIC page, they can see what other parents say about the activities that CPIC has organized or things like that. Maybe having a link or a little space, like just to show that might be a way of encouraging the parents to attend more of the events that CPIC is organizing.
Yeah, no, good thought, Alex. Absolutely. Good. Okay, Nancy.
Thanks, Jerry, and it was excellent. The next session, parents are invited to come with their children. And I think the timing of it is right within Catholic Education Week, but it's an event Sarah's doing for parents and children. What I would just say is, and Jerry, I don't know if you're available, if you're going to be available that night, but Jerry really took command of that session, and it needed somebody to take command because Sarah's very interactive, and so she puts questions out during the presentation to parents, and parents had to fill it in the chat, and then Jerry was able to call it out while Sarah continued with the presentation. So whoever's leading it has to understand how interactive it actually is. I would suggest that if Jerry or Jen, because they were there, could lead the next one if they're available. I think it's important that you have to be prepared to lead a session like that. Like, it worked because Jerry, you commanded that session for how interactive Sarah wanted it. And it allowed a lot of the parents to be very interactive because Jerry was keeping the flow of the meeting, the session going. Okay, so if you didn't attend, you may not understand how that can become very complex. It would have ruined Sarah's presentation if Jerry didn't take the command that he did that night. Okay, so just when you're meeting, Alex, maybe have that conversation with the group, what that's going to look like, and maybe tap on Jen or Jerry to support you with that.
Great, and Jerry, again, thank you so much for taking that on. I think with the change of the date, some of us conflicted, but we're so glad that you could do that and give that experience to the parents. It's really important, and thank you very much, because that is really putting CPIC again, like in the mind of the parents, which is the role that we always have in our parent engagement committee.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to attend regardless, so I was happy to be able to be there and give that helping hand to just kind of make sure it ran smoothly, and the attendees, got the attention they needed while Sarah did her thing. So, yeah, it is kind of a it was handy to have the extra pair of hands there. So no, I was happy to do it. My pleasure. And yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't attend the next one anyway. So I'm happy to do it again. Good stuff. Okay, great initiative.
Sorry, just one last thing. Nancy, would we be able to put in this link to the CPIC page in the website of the board, the link to the next two sessions? I was looking at it. We have the members. We have a button for like the nominations that is already closed, but I don't know if in this page we can put the flyers for the next two events with Sarah. It might be helpful, just if someone lands at the page that they know that we're organizing something.
when the communication, the first one, so communication has been working in partnership with us for this, Alex. So when the communication went out, it had all 3 events in the first communication. They do have a communication page. I'll ask them if they could make sure that's right on where CPIC is, but I think their plan is to just push it out through the social media thing, because sometimes parents don't go there, right? But I'll ask them how they want to embed it right where we have it on CPIC, okay? And we'll get you the feedback first, and then make the decision on what the feedback you would like to see on the website, okay?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
One last thing I'd add, and just and perhaps in an effort to even further increase attendance, because we had, I believe, over 600 people register for the event. Now, one of the things I observed is that you register, and then kind of nothing happens. That you don't almost 800. Thanks, Andrea. But then nothing happens after registration until the day of, at which time they then send you the Teams meeting link. I wonder, Andrea or Nancy or whomever manages the intake of those registrations, can the system generate an automatic confirmation email? Yeah, see, I didn't remember we had this discussion, so I was second guessing myself whether or not I had registered, because I never received a confirmation email that I was registered. So I registered again.
I had it set up to do that, but I'll double check it for sure.
Okay, because I
And it
registered
said
myself
that you'd get the link the day of, or whatever date it was.
Yeah.
You should have gotten something with a specific date.
Right. And then I'm presumably a mention in there to say, the day of you'll receive the Teams link.
Yeah, it should have
So
said
I
that.
just wonder if people, just because if they didn't get a confirmation, put it out of their mind, they didn't have it in their calendar or whatever. So I think our participation rate probably could have been greater. And I'm wondering now if that confirmation email goes to people's spam. That's something I didn't check. So
could be, because I did have a response on there, but a lot of people, I think too, just assumed that they'd be able to watch the recording afterwards. They didn't realize that it wasn't.
Yeah, so I guess if we can spell those kinds of things out. Number one, check your spam.
Well, I did have it on the form, but
yeah, really, yeah. Okay, yeah, the details are fuzzy now, but anyway, whatever we can do in those regards to drive up that participation, because I mean it's truly valuable stuff, and there's many more parents that could benefit from it. I mean 800 register, that's phenomenal, but it'd be great to see at least half of them show up, so okay, thanks. Okay, all right, Alex, is that good for you? You're covered off.
Yes, I think we'll get back to you once we have some more information when we meet with the committee again.
Terrific. Okay, thanks again, Alex. Okay, bylaws. The subcommittee hasn't met since the last our special meeting. Of course, where we passed the motion to adopt a couple of those changes into the bylaws. So essentially where we've left off is to now go back through the bylaws kind of one by one, work through them as our time permits, and then we will at a future meeting come back with further recommendations as to refinements and tweaks and whatnot to our bylaws. And again, I'll, as always, invite everyone on the committee if they see something in the bylaws that doesn't make sense, or they want to question or bring forward, please do bring it to myself, Jen, Maria, and we'll tackle it in our next bylaw subcommittee meeting. Okay, thank you all for the updates. Now, our board committees, mental health. Who I'm sorry, who sits on that one?
I think it's Jordan.
Okay, and Jordan is not here tonight. Okay, so we'll defer that update. Walk with Jesus.
That's me, Tiana.
Thanks, Tiana. Go ahead.
Thank you. We had our first meeting before the March break, and everything's in the preliminary stages. I don't have much to say about it yet. We were supposed to have another meeting after March break. I know they assigned a new leader, and I'm thinking I might have been missed on the invite. So I will just send them out a message to let them know that I may have been missed, and then we can get back on track with that. So just everything's in preliminary stages where they weren't sure how to progress yet with the Walk with Jesus, because we were still up in the air about, is it going to be virtual or is it going to be actual being able to be with other people kind of thing. So again, that was probably covered in the second meeting that I might have missed. So I will follow up with them and have more information on our next CPIC meeting.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Tiana. Nancy?
Thanks, Jen. I can bring some updates as well. So first of all, we are calling the event The Journey with Jesus. So it will be on the Thursday of Catholic Education Week, and all schools are invited to plan what that will look like for their school community. So there is still going to be some sort of an outdoor walk component to it. Everybody will be provided with liturgy that they can follow for it. I think what they would like to do is be able to bring it out to parents. Because it could be outdoors, it might be something they'll do outdoors or they'll do it virtually, that liturgy part of it. But they do have the plan, and it is being communicated to the schools. So each school will share their plan with their community. Okay, so the new title is The Journey with Jesus, is what they're calling it.
That's right. Thank you, Nancy.
I like the new name. I got to be honest. I like it. All right. Okay. Thanks, Tiana. Thanks, Nancy. Homeschool Parish Partnership. Do we have an update there?
Yeah, that's me, Violetta.
Thanks, Violetta.
So the board was, so the committee was, had a meeting early March. Unfortunately, I was on vacation and the minutes have not been circulated. However, I arranged for a partnership also with the board to do a presentation around Easter. And the intent was to make it a family, with a family lens, so we can actually provide information on the Holy Week and how to incorporate your families. The intent was also to have these as a live event, but it just didn't work like that. And then it moved into a pre-recording session, but that didn't seem to be feasible either. So it's going to be a PowerPoint presentation, which I'm hoping it actually delivers and gets the message that was intended for. It should be coming up next week. Probably Nancy can update us on the date, because I actually never got it. And that's all I have for now.
Okay, thanks, Violetta. Nancy?
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Violetta, and thank you for that outreach to, so the outreach was to Jillian Federico, who is our system chaplain, and Patricia Dalben, who is our consultant for religion and family life. They have prepared a wonderful PowerPoint. Unfortunately, because somewhere the miscommunication on when the event could take place, together with communications with other things that were happening in the board, their schedule with what other events were already taking place, it couldn't happen. So we will plan for, when we do our planning for next year, be really intentional just to align, because so much is being done virtually, and the availability to be able to do it. We have to be really making sure those dates are marked well in advance for an event like that, and also make sure that the presenters are available for us. But what they're going to do, they've already started to prepare a 4-part series that they're going to give to CPIC that can be shared out for our parent community. They have no problem to do it live. They think it needs to be live. The PowerPoint is excellent, but not always will a parent engage in a PowerPoint that's posted on the website. They're PDFing it, the communications department, and having it available with like a news story for next week. So parents will have that information of the good work that they've done at the request of Violetta. Okay, so we just need to be really intentional about planning. We said that earlier this year. We need about a 6-week window before we're actually having an event, so that we advertise it properly and we make sure the personnel who needs to present and is available, along with the communications team who needs to do the whole live event that you're doing on a stream and things like that. Okay, so that's where we're at with that. Okay. Any questions?
Would it make sense to have those folks out and do a version of it to Council of Chairs?
Well, that presentation was for Holy Week, in preparation for Lenten Holy Week. So I don't know if we would bring them out to Council of Chairs. One of the things that they're working on could be something we would want for Council of Chairs. I can go back to them and ask them that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so once we get to that part,
I didn't realize it was a Holy Week themed presentation. Okay.
It is. It's all tied to that. But the 4-part series that they want to offer for next year has many facets to it. Okay, so it's not just Holy Week. Okay, but this presentation was specifically for Holy Week.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, all right. So then for their future work, then perhaps it's something for us to keep in mind for future council chairs then, for them to come speak to it. I mean, that's because obviously the Homeschool Parish Partnership is always something that's top of mind for our council of chairs events anyway. So if we can kind of springboard off of that initiative, I think it probably makes sense. So thank you. All right, thanks, Violetta. Okay. Thanks again for the board committee updates. Okay, so now moving on to action item we had carried over from an earlier meeting around advisory authority of school councils and duty to report. Maria, would you like to present this piece and your motion, please?
Sure. So do you want me to read the motion to put it on the floor? I know it's lengthy, but I don't know if it has to be read in order to be voted on, or.
Yeah, I think that'd be prudent. Are you in a position to share your screen, or?
No, sorry, because I had to do meetings double booked tonight, so I have it on my laptop and I'm doing this meeting on my iPad. Would Andrea be able to share it?
Sorry? Let me see if you can pull it up. Hang on.
Yeah, because it's with the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was.
Of course it is. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Andrea just got booted out of the meeting, so she's going to try to get back in and then bring it up.
Okay, because I was going to say the agenda was on the screen, so I thought if you just scroll down that would do
she
it.
She just got bumped out though.
Yeah,
She'll come back. She'll come back.
Okay. I was wondering.
Okay, can you guys see this? No.
Okay.
Is that good for you?
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. And if it's okay, I'm not going to read all, like I have all the references to the regulation sections, but I don't know if I need to read that. I'm going to skip it if I can. So
I think that's fine, Maria.
Okay, thank you. So I'm moving that whereas Regulation 612 of the Education Act, amended by Regulation 330/10, sets out the mandate for school councils and parent involvement committees, and specifically sets out that A, the purpose of school councils is through the active participation of parents to improve pupil achievement and to achieve the accountability of the education system to parents. B, a school council's primary means of achieving its purpose is by making recommendations in accordance with this regulation to the principal of the school and the board that established the council. C, the purpose of a parent involvement committee is to support, encourage, and enhance parent engagement at the board level in order to improve student achievement and well-being. D, communicating with and supporting school councils of schools of the board is one of the ways in which a parent involvement committee of a board shall achieve its purpose. E, a parent involvement committee of a board shall develop strategies and initiatives that the board and the board's director of education could use to effectively communicate with parents and to effectively engage parents in improving student achievement and well-being, and advise the board and the board's director of education on ways to use the strategies and initiatives referred to above. Whereas Regulation 612 sets out the advisory authority of school councils, specifically that a school council may make recommendations to the principal of the school or the board that established the council on any matter. And whereas Regulation 612 also sets out the duty of the board to respond, specifically that the board that established a school council shall consider each recommendation made to the board by the council and shall advise the council of the action taken in response to the recommendation. And whereas the Halton Catholic District School Board, HCDSB, has previously failed to respond to recommendations made by a Catholic school council, and whereas outlining a specific process for addressing school council recommendations to the board would prevent the board from failing to respond in the future, contrary to the requirements of Regulation 612 of the Education Act, be it resolved that the HCDSB Catholic Parent Involvement Committee recommend to the board that any future school council recommendations be included on the board meeting agenda as an action item for a decision on the action to be taken in response to the recommendation and communication to the school council of the same in accordance with Section 21 of Regulation 612 of the Education Act. So that's the motion. And I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I tried to kind of lay out the logic behind it. I know we've had discussions about it before, and I've spoken about it quite a bit before. So I don't know that I have anything to add. I don't know if you want me to go through anything more. I guess the one thing that I would say, and I know I've said before, I think, I don't see any harm in this motion. And I think it protects the board by providing a mechanism to ensure that the regulation is followed. And in terms of parent engagement, obviously it's our role to support school council. So this does that. This fits right within our mandate. And I will say that, I've served on many school councils for many years, and I've known lots of people that have been on a council for a year and not come back because, in their words, they felt that it was futile and that they weren't being listened to. And I can say specifically with the recommendation that happened last year from the Assumption Council, I know of people that were quite frustrated to not get a response. And again, didn't come back to council as a result of that. So, that's not good. And I think we want to avoid that sort of thing from happening. So again, I think this is just a simple process that helps to protect some of those negative things from happening in the future. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I don't know that I have a lot to add at this point.
Okay, thanks, Maria, for walking us through that. So yeah, and you're right, obviously there was some prior discussion about it, but it's been some time. If we could perhaps do a bit of a once around the table for anyone that has clarifying questions on it, just so everyone's very clear on the motion, what it's intending to achieve, and before we get to voting on it. So I'll open it up now for any members that want to ask questions on it, comment on it. Now's the time. Yeah, Alex.
Thank you. I tried to put myself up to date in this discussion, and as I wrote in the email, I think that as the board will keep growing and our communities keep being more complex every time, I do see the value of having a mechanism to be able to help both sides, like the board and the school councils, to function more efficiently. That is where my mind is. Like as we grow, as communities are facing different problems, different. Some are growing, some are shrinking, like all these things. For me is how to have that kind of not only accountability, but make things easier for everybody. It's really a matter, from my point of view, of rather than having CPIC school councils trying to find a way into getting to things, it's like paving the road for them. That's the value that I see in this motion, and it's independent of what has happened in the past or whatever. I think it's looking more to the future and the way in which we will have to engage with the school councils. I actually seeing all the things that are happening, right, with the online schooling, with what's happening right now at our high schools and elementary schools. I truly believe that the school councils will need to get stronger to keep their communities growing, and they do. It's just a matter of having a system that works for everybody and that really makes it a no-brainer for everybody in case there's something. Anyway, by the point, and I don't know if I'm right in this reflection, but by the point the school council is going to go directly to the board for any reason, that discussion has already happened at the school council with their principal, with their teacher representatives, and with the parent representatives. So it's not like everybody is going to be able to use this mechanism, only in cases that have been considered important or deemed to it. So that is just what I think, and I think it's just moving forward into all the things that we're going to have in the future when we go back to normal.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Others? So I guess what I would ask is the practicality of what is being proposed here in terms of making. So let me just reread it. That any future school council recommendations be included on the board meeting agenda as an action item for a decision on the action to be taken in response to the recommendation. So just in practical terms, how does that play out? And I think in part I'm looking to Marvin here as our board representative to speak on it. And Ray, of course, to respond as well. How you'd see it playing out, but maybe Marvin, if you can hear from the board perspective.
Sure, Jerry. So just to give a little background, Jerry, is I have sat on school councils, 7 different school councils. So 10 years I've been involved with CPIC for at least 10 years in the past before being a trustee, and I'm looking at it from both sides. So as a school council, you are a resource to the principal to get things done locally within the school. So if the school council has an issue, typically you go to the principal, you have a school council meeting, take issues to principal. Principals are always very proactive and they take those issues up seriously and get them resolved. if a school council is not happy with the decision, then there's the next level. You go to the superintendent and so on. There's a proper process laid out there. Now, over the past, in my involvement with CPIC, I believe, and CPIC has always been a parent involvement committee. That's the Education Act, it defines that thing. The main goal of the Catholic Parent Involvement Committee is to foster relationships between
Did Marvin freeze, or others seeing that?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yes, we just need to let him know.
Okay, yeah, he might have to dial back in. Yeah, let's give him a moment to get back on here. Nancy, do you have his
Yes, I'll try to text him. I'll text him. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. Hi, Jerry.
Yep. No worries, Marvin.
Somebody doesn't like me, I think, kick me out.
Yeah, I know. A couple of glitches tonight, but
there you go.
Okay, there you go. You're unfrozen now, and we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, please,
okay.
Please continue. You were speaking about the CPIC and parent engagement.
Yes. So the relationship that the parent and the school councils involved get engaged with the schools is a very good one, very strong relationship. That's what I've seen in the past, at least in Milton schools. So I'm assuming the same would go in all the schools in our region. The function of CPIC, and I've been involved with CPIC for very long, is to build a very strong relationship with parents. Over the past 10 years, I've really seen CPIC blossom, and the work being done by the parents on CPIC has been amazing. Okay, there's still a lot of work to be done. We still have a lot of work to be done. What I'm seeing in this motion here is and as you pointed out, Jerry, the mechanics doesn't seem to be right. If a particular school has got some issues, are we going to bring it up to the board? The function of the board of trustees is to work on policies. The function of the board is not to solve each and each individual problems. We have right people in the right place to deal with that. So policies, high-level policies, that's what's the function of the board. And I'm looking at this be it resolved, and it says whereas the function of the PIC is to be an advisory group. True, yes, PIC is an advisory group, and it's like bring up an issue which I don't really see. Specifically, it's pointing about an issue that occurred, and again, I'm wondering, we have issues, yes. We have issues, we are not perfect. We need to work on that. And I did say that we have a mechanism in place to deal with issues. And I think we should look at this very positively rather than bringing up an issue that occurred and making it a generalized idea. We are a great board. We have great things in place. And I don't think one should look at an isolated incident and then generalize it across the board. Besides, there is a policy and a procedure in place for the agenda of the board to be set up. If a school council is going to be determining how the agenda is going to be set up, then we might not as well have a policy and procedure in place for governance. So I'm just wondering where we are going with this motion, and it clearly says it's an advisory group, and I'm not sure where we are going with this, Jerry, and the mechanics boggles my mind.
Okay, thanks, Marvin. And I think we'll continue going down the line here. Thanks for your comments. Yeah, I mean, as I read this, I mean, it's if passed, it's a recommendation by us, CPIC, to the board to adopt this as a procedure, I suppose. It's not to say the board will ultimately adopt it or accept it. It's just for us to put it forward. So anyway, that's you know, I mean, it's perhaps a long road from here to there, potentially. So anyway, yeah, I'll reserve any more of my comments for now, but I see Trustee O'Brien's with us as well. He's got his hand up. And I'd welcome Tim to weigh in as well. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Jerry. I want to commend the person that brought this forward. This is a very interesting motion, and it does state the regulations quite clearly. I have to respectfully disagree with my esteemed chair. I don't think the mechanics would all be that hard. I mean, CPIC makes a recommendation, it comes to the board, gets put on an action item. Doesn't mean we have to pass it, we debate it, and we make a decision on it. I think this would really tie CPIC closer to the board, and I would really welcome it. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for your perspective. Much appreciated. Maria, did you want to respond to Marvin and or Tim?
Yeah, I did. And well, I think that yourself and Tim have made some of the comments that I was going to make. As you pointed out, Jerry, it's a recommendation. We're an advisory committee. We certainly can't direct the board, right? And it doesn't say that. And so it's a recommendation. And as Tim pointed out, it's a recommendation. It goes to the board. They can debate it. They can, you know, they can not accept our recommendation, right? That they have power to do that. As to the logistics, again, you know, I don't think it's that complicated. The bylaws set out how the agenda is set up. Action items can be added through notices of motion, through, I think if a request is made, you know, I'm not an expert, but I don't see that it's that complicated. But again, if it goes to the board, they can debate it. They can agree with our recommendation and accept it or not, and then they can figure out the logistics. I don't think it's that complicated. But I do also want to comment about what's the role of school council and what's the role of CPIC. And, you know, I thought it was pretty clear, and I have quoted the regulation. The role of school councils, the role of school councils is carried out. One of the primary means is by making recommendations to the principal or the board. A recommendation doesn't have to go to a principal first. And some recommendations don't make sense. You know, the one that I referenced from last year was a recommendation for something that would have to be decided on a board-wide issue. So it wasn't something we could just recommend to our principal, and he wasn't going to make a decision for the board as a whole. So that just wouldn't have made sense. And, you know, I don't want to invalidate Marvin or anybody else's experience on school councils. And I'm going to ask that people don't invalidate mine either. I've been on school councils for the last 13 years, at times on more than one. I've served under 6 different principals, 3 different schools, both panels, you know, and I haven't always found principals to be responsive. I've found some principals to be rather difficult. So, you know, again, I'm not saying that's everybody's experience, and I don't want anyone else. I don't think it's fair for anyone else to suggest that the experience they've had is the experience that is found throughout our 55 or however many schools we have now. You know, so, but again, this is very, very much within the role of CPIC. Making recommendations is very much within the role of school councils. Maybe it doesn't happen. And I think, you know, for anyone who's engaged in, you know, I've attended a lot of parent conferences and workshops on effective school councils, et cetera. And, you know, it's not just in our board, but school councils have evolved into fundraising bodies and, you know, getting updates from principals and things about what's going on in the school, which is all great. But that's not really the original mandate of school councils, right? It's found in the regulations. So this is absolutely within what school councils and CPIC should be doing. I don't think there's any validity to suggesting that it's not. So I think that's all I had at this point.
Okay, thanks, Maria. Others, anyone else have comments or questions? Okay. I guess again, all I would ask, and again, and you know, with you know, not understanding the, you know, kind of the mechanics of the board meetings, and I mean, obviously I have a basic understanding of how they work, but just and again, as CPIC, we put our names to this to put this recommendation forward. You know, it's in hopes that it gets serious consideration and that it has the possibility of being looked at and being adopted, being accepted, and the board to put something in place as is suggested in our recommendation. So I just wonder if for phrasing it this way, that it be specifically an action item on the board agenda for a decision on the action to be taken in response to recommendation. How will that land at the board? Will that gain you know, support? And again, until it's discussed and debated, we won't know for sure. I guess what I'm driving at is there alternative ways to go about this in terms of proposing? I mean, because if mandating that it be an action item, like that every recommendation from school council, and again, I don't know how many recommendations from school councils the board receives in a given year. I suspect it's not a lot, but please, you know, Marvin, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. But if it is a lot, is this feasible? Is this viable? So those are the kind of the practicality things I'd like to understand is, you know, fast forward a bit, if this were to be adopted, is this, you know, could this be adopted by the board, or is there a compromise? Is there another way of going about it to put a formalized structure in place of some kind? I don't know what that is. And some would argue that already exists, but you know, could it be improved? Could there be more transparency around that process? So that we're not, you know, in a situation like we are now, based on it's based largely on Maria's experience with her own council, and that's what's predicated this. But we don't want it to happen to other councils either. So what's the other potential ways forward, or, you know, Maria, is this the only way forward as you see it, or is there other ways to, pardon the expression, but other ways to skin this cat?
Well,
yeah.
Sorry, can I respond to? Yeah.
Yeah. Please, please.
So, you know, I'm certainly open. Like, I don't know if you have any other thoughts, Jerry, but I think my wording there is what I'm trying to accomplish is that it goes to the board and that there is some resolution that the board, you know, like, it's not enough for them just to like have a little discussion about it. They need to, and it's required, they need to respond to the council. And that doesn't mean, like, responding to the council doesn't mean they're going to accept the council's recommendation either. Now, of course, and I agree with you, we want to put this forward. If we're going to put this forward, we want to put it forward in a way that it has, you know, a chance to be successful. Of course, the trustees can amend it too, right? They can, you know, they can accept the recommendation as is. They can, you know, do something a little bit different. Like, it's up to them once it gets there. So I'm certainly open to other suggestions of how it could be worded or whatnot. But at the end of the day, there needs to be a process whereby the board responds to the school council as to the action they're going to take. And I think that wording is what's in the regulation or similar to it, right? So, you know, if the board isn't going to proceed with the recommendation, I would hope that they would provide a rationale as to why. You know, if they're going to, like, whatever, there needs to be a response. So I think action item sort of comes from, you know, there needs to be, like, something needs to happen, not just like a discussion at the board, right? That's if that makes sense. So I'm certainly open to other suggestions, as long as at the end of the day, you know, the school council's getting a response, which I think is, you know, I mean, it's a matter of respect too, to be quite honest, right? They put, you know, and again, as Alex made the point too, and I don't think, I've followed board meetings for years. I've seen one other recommendation come, and it did, the board did discuss it and make, and, you know, pass a resolution as to how they were going to respond to that council's ask. So that's how it was handled. It did get added to their agenda. So yeah, I haven't seen, I've been attending board meetings since about 2016, and I haven't seen other things come forward. And yeah, I think it's a bit of a hurdle because you have to have consensus or a majority vote from your council members to bring it forward. And even in ours, we didn't all agree as to what was the right way to address the issue. So the letter sort of said, here's a bunch of the things that we've talked about and that we'd ask you to consider in resolving this issue. So it wasn't even like, we want the board to do this. It was like, we want the board to address this issue and here's some ideas. It's hard to get consensus on tough issues, right? So I don't see a flood of letters coming. Who knows? But again, it's within school council's mandate. So, you know, if those letters are coming, then we got to ask why, right? Like,
Yep. Yeah, and again, I think I'd turn back to Marvin and Tim, if they'd be so kind as to comment further here.
I
Do
can.
you see potentially other, is there a better way to position this and with what, while achieving the same result of that accountability for a response? Yeah, I'll leave it at that. You've heard the discourse here. Marvin, go ahead.
So you asked the question first, how many of this have come? So to my knowledge, over the past 3 years, I just heard of this one case. We generally do not receive any direct message from the school councils because most of the, as I said before, everything's taken care of at the school level or through the superintendents in that hierarchy. How do we go about with this? To my knowledge, and I'm very prompt with this myself. Generally, when an email comes to the board from a school council, it's responded very positively and very promptly. There's one situation which may have skipped, and we're talking about that here. But we attend to everything. We attend to any complaints coming from ratepayers, parents, school councils. I don't see us skipping intentionally. Errors may have occurred. And yes, we have said we're going to correct that, and we have been prompt in responding to it. So what else do I add to this? Do we change something? Yes, for sure. We can commit to being more proactive. We can commit to being more responsive. But I don't see how this is going to help in any way. Can't hear you, Jerry. You're muted.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I can see myself, but that's not good enough. Thanks, Marvin. Appreciate the additional comments. Okay. Anyone else with any final additional questions or comments before we put the motion to a vote? Yep, go ahead, Tim.
I want just one point of clarification. Chair Dwyer spoke about school councils, but my understanding is this motion is from CPIC. And that's what the recommendation is coming from, correct?
Yes, from CPIC. Although on behalf of both school councils and CPIC, if I understand it correctly, Maria, that so if recommendations should come from a school council or from CPIC itself, that in either in both cases, those would be treated as an action item on an upcoming board meeting for decision on the action to be taken in response to the recommendation.
But from CPIC?
No. Correct? No. This recommendation would, if passed, would be coming from CPIC.
That's what I mean.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. But for the purpose of for school council's recommendations to when they do land at the board, for them to be treated as an action item at a board meeting. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me, Jerry. That's what.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, Jen.
Maria, I'm just wondering, does it make any sense to have those kinds of issues that aren't necessarily maybe school specific, that need to go to a higher level, to have them go through CPIC first as a source of getting to the board level, given that it's kind of our role to advocate to the board, and then we can also kind of I don't know what the right word is, but preview, is this like a valid concern that we think needs to be pushed forward? Just a thought, I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think I know what Maria would say, and that is the regs say that the school council itself has the privilege of going direct to the board. They don't necessarily have to go through an intermediary. So could we put in place that we encourage the school councils to come to CPIC first as that kind of intermediary level? I don't see why not. That's something we could certainly disseminate and encourage councils to do if the council agreed that was appropriate. But again, that doesn't supersede the regs.
Yeah, I think, Jerry, you're right. And I think even if, I don't think we could put that in as a rule because it would contradict the regs, because the regs do allow to go directly to the board. And I would also say, that's another layer, and it could be frustrating. And if a school council has reached a consensus, what happens if it comes to CPIC? Really, who is CPIC to decide that it's not appropriate? And again, that would be pretty frustrating, right? A school council, it may get turned out at the board too, but I think that could just lead to frustration personally. But
yeah,
we could encourage it, sure, but
yeah, and there are times where we do get escalations or concerns raised directly to CPIC. It comes into the email box, and then we typically, the odd time when those things do come through, we kind of triage it and try and get the right answers for the query. So that kind of already happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't discourage it.
Informally.
Yeah, I wouldn't discourage it for sure, right?
No.
There's nothing wrong with it. If a school council wants to do that, like, sure.
But yeah, but not to supersede the regs. Okay. Tim, your hand's up. I assume that's up from before.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. Okay. I think we've about exhausted it. I'll do one last call for any other comments or questions. Okay. It looks like everyone's had an opportunity. All right, so if we're ready, then we'll proceed to vote to adopt the motion or not. So I will go in.
Sorry, Jerry, I think you need a seconder as well.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
You're right. So Maria has put the motion on the table for our consideration. And is there anyone who would like to now second the motion?
Alex, I can do the seconding. It's okay.
No, unfortunately not, Alex. You need to be a voting member.
It has to be a. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, apologies.
Jerry, community reps vote. It's just the OAPC and deanery, right? Community reps do vote. She's a community rep. Yes, they do. It's even in our bylaws.
No, Maria. No.
Jerry.
No.
Jerry, it was the OAPC and the deanery specifically that.
We've been over this, Maria. No.
Yes, we have.
Can I call on someone else to weigh in here, because that is not where we landed with that decision. That was put forward and it was voted down, Maria. Like, no, it is parent members only.
Jerry, it was for the OAPC and deanery only, and I don't know if Nancy Donalfo can weigh in on here. I'm pulling up the bylaws.
I think we need to pull up the bylaws just to see where we landed. Because we did vote on it. I don't know where we landed. I have to pull it up. Andrea, can you pull up the bylaws? Are you able to do that? Because I believe we made the amendment.
Oh,
I have them up, but
you know what?
which sec-
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're correct. You're correct.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking there. My apologies. You are correct. Yep. Okay. So we have a seconder. Thank you, Alex. And my apologies. Geez, I brain fart. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So we have a seconder. So the motion's now on the table for to be voted on. And okay, so I will go in the order in which I see the voting members on the participant list here. And I see, I believe the phone number there is Sarah Siwash. If you're able to, so they basically either in favor or opposed to the motion on the table. Okay, no, Sarah, I'll try coming back to her. Alex.
Now I'm the one confused. I can vote now?
Yes, you may.
Okay, in favor.
Philip, one second.
Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can. Is that Sarah?
Yes, sorry, you guys muted me, so I had to figure out how to unmute myself.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Sorry. Go ahead, Sarah. In favor or opposed?
In favor.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Got your vote. And next up, I have Kevin. Okay, no Kevin. Well, I'll try and circle back. Maria.
in favor.
Okay. Okay, Jen.
In favor.
Tiana.
In favor.
Violetta.
In favor.
Okay, I'll circle back one more time. Kevin.
Sorry about that. In favor.
In favor. Okay. Okay, that's all right. The motion carries. All right.
I just would like to thank my fellow CPIC members for their support on the motion. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks for the time and thought put into it, Maria. Thanks also to our esteemed trustees for their contributions to the discussion. Okay, very well. So next steps with this, then we will I guess formally present it to the board. And again, I must confess, I'm not sure what the beyond just I mean obviously Marvin's here with us, and so is Tim. But in terms of the kind of the more formalized next steps to get that to the board, we can ascertain that after the meeting.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, it's cognizant of time here. We're now at 8:37. We do have one more item here, a discussion item, Council of Chairs agenda items. So our next Council of Chairs scheduled for May 25th. So we do have a bit of time, and we do have another CPIC meeting before the Council of Chairs meeting. However, we wanted to get it on now because, of course, depending what might be desired on that next Council of Chairs meeting, sometimes we need more lead time. So open it up for thoughts, ideas, discussion on agenda items, potential agenda items for the next Council of Chairs. Does anyone have anything to bring forward? Yes, Maria.
So I have a couple of thoughts, and I think I've brought some of them forward before, so I'm not sure if they were considered or not. But one item, it's probably more appropriate for the first council chairs meeting in the school year, but school council training, and the board used to do really good in my early years. They used to do school council training. It wasn't mandatory, but it was recommended for anybody in an office type position or new to school councils, and it was really good. And I think it was recently still on the board website. It might not be now with the updated website, but I think that would be a good thing, but probably makes more sense in, I guess, October, whenever the first meeting is, than the end of the year when people may not be continuing. I don't know. And the other two topics were, and I know there's been some back and forth on this, but on the annual reporting and the school generated funds. And I am working on an email, as you had requested, to provide a bit more about the gaps that I see, et cetera. I didn't get it finished in time for this meeting, but perhaps it could be on the May meeting, and I'll share my thoughts. I've gotten kind of detailed. So those could also be topics as to, you know, what's required, and maybe some suggestions that go a bit beyond what's required. And just as an example, say like with the annual report, and again, this is in the document that I'm working on, and the ministry has a guide for school councils, and they sort of give two samples in their report or in their guide. You know, here's the minimum that school councils should do, and it's kind of similar to what our board does. And here's a more detailed report. So things like that, like here's what's required, here's what you have to do. So because I'm, you know, honestly, in my experience, I feel like administrators, especially new administrators, don't always understand. And certainly people who are new to the chair role, you know, I don't really see, you know, I've been a chair a couple of times and nobody sort of went through with me, here's what is expected of you as a chair, here's what's required. So a council of chairs is a good opportunity to convey all of that information to, you know, everyone in those positions. So those are a couple of suggestions that I would like to bring forward. And if I can put my items on the May agenda, you know, it's a little bit of time ahead of the council of chairs meeting. I don't know if it's enough or not, but anyways, those are some thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Maria. I've noted those down. Okay, Jen.
I think those are both really good ideas that Maria brought forward, but I'm wondering if perhaps both of them are more applicable for our first council of chair meeting, given that the council of chairs will be given that your chairs will be turning over from all the schools. So giving them that information in May, it might be more useful to give it to them, you know, when you have your new chairs all set up. And I guess also depending on how much information there is, we may have to assess whether just a separate school council training that incorporates kind of both those things makes more sense, so that we still can have some topics of discussion on the actual council chair agenda for that first meeting, so it doesn't kind of take up all the time to do that. So I guess we'd have to assess how much material there is and see if it makes sense to do it as like a 20-30 minute discussion piece as part of the agenda, or to do it as a separate meeting. But those would be my thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Yeah, no, it's fair points. Maria, did you want to further comment?
Yeah, just to follow up on that. I think, and I could be wrong because sometimes these things sort of grow, but I don't know that the annual report and the financial reporting would take up an extensive amount of time. The school council training might be a bit more. And I hear what you're saying about doing it as, you know, the beginning of the new school year. But I think with the annual reporting and the financial reporting, those are due at the end of this school year. So I mean, it could be done both times, you know, maybe a bit more of a high level in the fall. I don't know. But I do think kind of makes sense to do those in May as well. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. All right. We'll take that back for more consideration. Nancy?
Thanks, Jerry. Just with regards to the council training, that has been done. I'm going to say prior to COVID, that has been something that CPIC has offered to new council chairs. Okay, so the handbook, which is being revised, that would be a session that was always happening ahead of, like, so once our councils, remember, you don't start your new council until probably the first in October. Okay, and then CPIC would always offer to new council chairs a training session. Okay, so I think that because of everything that's gone on with COVID, that whole path of what was happening, it didn't happen. There's been a lot of work done with this subcommittee that we should be ready to go for that for September. Okay, so that is something that prior was something that happened through CPIC. Okay, so we can reinstate that. Okay, that would be one. In terms of the SGF reporting, at the Council of Chairs in the fall, the first one, we did have a presentation to Catholic school councils, especially around the school generated plan, on what the expectation and the involvement of the chairs and their councils on that discussion with the principal, and then how they contribute to it, and then the requirement on that at 3 times throughout the year that the council has to be presented with the school generated funds report. Okay, and that ledger report has been created through business services. What we provide, and then it's posted on the school websites. So that was shared at the October Council of Chairs meeting. Okay, so if we go back to that, actually we don't have that recorded. That was one of the presentations we did in October. Okay, I think October or November, I can't remember the date of that meeting. I don't think we have to do it again for May. We did that. And then for the annual report, we can actually review the annual report. And know that we probably will have sent it to the councils before the May 25th meeting, but we can definitely review it with them and what's required. And our form has been updated. It does align to what the ministry has asked and what our requirement as a board in terms of updating our SGF. Like that is something that we have to report to the ministry on, and that's done through business services. Okay, so as I articulated, and I know that communication went out to everybody, we have that mechanism in place because we were responsible to do it that way, and we follow that plan. And so the schools have to post and share with their councils, and then that gets shared with the ministry. The ministry, like we have to report on SGF. That's a requirement. The board has to do that, and when I say board, business services has to do that. It's not something we cannot do. We have to do that. Okay, so I can provide more information about that, but I have no problem to present how we complete annual reports and the requirement for it. Like I said, we got all the annual reports last year. We submit that to the ministry. The ministry oversees that. If we weren't doing it properly, they would have come back to us and let me know that. Okay, so I think that we are following the guidelines that they have provided to us. Okay, for that. But however you would like to move forward with it, I'm fine with that. Just to that point that we talked about the Homeschool Parish Partnership, I could talk to Jillian and Patricia to see if there's an opportunity to present something at the council chairs. I think that would be a nice way for councils to come together and for us to share some of the great work that both of those staff members do around Homeschool Parish Partnership. If the group would like that.
Yeah, I think so. All right, thanks, Nancy. Maria, did you have another comment? Nope. Okay.
Sorry, Jerry. Yeah. I didn't. I thought I had unmuted.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I feel like I'm at an unfair disadvantage here because I had asked for these items to be on the agenda for tonight, and I respected the fact that they weren't. But Nancy has spoken to them, and it's not on the agenda, so I haven't spoken to them. I do see gaps, and again, I'm working on the communication as you suggested. There are gaps between what we're doing and what's in the regulations, and there are gaps between what we're doing and what could be better practices, in my opinion. So, can I speak to those in response? Because
no, honestly,
Nancy has spoken
to
them,
Nancy
right?
was
Yeah.
I mean, you brought them up in context of Council of Chairs, and yeah. not for a discussion item now. So I'll say no.
But again, why was that reply allowed? That's, anyways.
Listen,
it's not
Maria,
really
I'm not the sort of chair to cut people off, but however, no. you've asked, can we discuss it now? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda. Yeah. You brought it up in the context of Council of Chairs.
So I'm just going to say I dispute what's the information that's been shared.
Okay, so noted. And again, it's not a discussion that's happening now. So I mean, there's no action to be taken here. So let's move on, please. Okay. My own thoughts just for our last Council of Chairs meeting would be, I don't know, is there something to end the year off with just, we hopefully, God willing, we're coming out of this brutal couple of years under COVID and heading into a new chapter in the fall, all being well, of course. I'm tired of saying that, but such as it is. I wonder if isn't something we can do at the next Council of Chairs, you know, kind of almost spring themed rebirth, coming out of this cocoon, that kind of idea. I don't know what it is, whether it's just in the context of, you know, again, you know, group discussions, thoughts around how we can, you know, kind of move through and past this past experience, and kind of looking forward into the next year, and just kind of ending things off, you know, positively, and setting the right tone as we conclude the year and think about the new school year in the fall. That's just kind of a theme I had in mind, more so than a specific presentation or discussion. So what that looks like, I don't know, but I just thought I'd plant the seed, see what others thought. Can we do something around that? I just feel like we'd be doing a service for everyone if we could have you know, our last Council of Chairs meetings themed around a more positive outlook and looking forward, and thinking and planning accordingly. So just kind of a thought starter. Yeah, Tiana.
So you're talking something like life after pandemic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, very good way to capsulize it. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I'm thinking of, and I don't know if it's too soon or if it's not allowed, the possibility of doing it in person instead of virtual. That's one thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's allowed or if we're ready for that yet, but that's just one thought I have. I know that just being able to sit across from a table from someone instead of in your own little house by yourself really adds a lot to the emotional aspect of it, or to the atmosphere as well. So that's one thought. I don't know.
Yeah, no, agreed. And we've Jen and I have talked about this a little bit, and we kind of bounced stuff with Nancy too, around the prospect of moving to in person, and you know, kind of our initial chats about that were, well, let's perhaps start with CPIC, our CPIC meetings themselves, and put it out to the group, for you know, if there's a comfort level there to convene our next one at the board office again, or perhaps if necessary, and if people would prefer a hybrid option, where those who can and want to be in person are, and those who can't or don't want to be can still be present virtually. So that's the thought. Council chairs, obviously a much bigger event with a lot more people. Personally, I'd love to see it in person again. It's so much more dynamic. It's so much more engaging. And just to be able to have those, you know, sidebar conversations before and after the meeting with folks you haven't seen in a while, it's hard to replace online. So I'm absolutely with you there, Tiana. So, I mean, let's see how things evolve, especially with this current wave of COVID and where where the restrictions will be. So, but thank you. Yeah, no, in person would be great. Okay. Any other thoughts for the time being? No. Okay. All right. Well, we'll end it there. And again, of course, please, folks, as ideas occur to you for future agenda items for council chairs, please do send them in to Jen and I, and we'll work towards drafting up an agenda before the next CPIC meeting, which is sorry, when is our next CPIC meeting? Andrew, do you have that date handy?
May 16th.
May 16th, thank you. Yeah, okay.
I think, sorry, I think that's Council of Chairs actually, isn't it?
Council of Chairs is May 25th.
No. Yes,
25th.
you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize.
Okay. Okay, so and speaking of dates, we have our proposed meeting dates for the next school year as laid out there. So yeah, our regular CPIC meetings on Mondays, which I believe is approximately the what did we set that as? The September. Yeah, not exactly the second Monday of every month. Just it depends on the month, but give or take midway through each month, and then the 3 council of chairs as you see there, November, February, and May. Any comments, questions, or concerns with those proposed dates at this time? No. Okay. All this is in the agenda package again, so if you need to, if you want to refer back, and for those that will be continuing their term into next year, perhaps do take a few minutes and pop them into your calendar. Okay. All right. That wraps up all the agenda items for this evening, and I'll call on Vince. Vince, you still with us? Yeah, I see you there. If you wouldn't mind, take us through our closing prayer.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. Please join me in the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. A prayer for Ukraine. Loving God, we pray for the people of Ukraine, for all those suffering or afraid, that you will come close to them and protect them. We pray for world leaders, for compassion, strength, and wisdom to guide their choices. We pray for the world, that in this moment of crisis, we may reach out in solidarity to our brothers and sisters in need. May we walk in your ways so that peace and justice become a reality for the people of Ukraine and for the world. Amen. St. Catherine of Alexandria, pray for us. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right. Thank you very much, Vince, for that beautiful prayer. All right, and thank you, one and all committee members and guests, for joining us this evening. And thanks again for everyone's thoughtful contributions and participation. And this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.